Hello, my name is Denis, and I lead the developer experience team at Tendermint, and I'll be talking about Starport. So, what is Starport? Starport is a CLI tool aimed at developers that empowers them to build sovereign blockchains. Starport has its roots in the philosophy of Cosmos, that states that every crypto application essentially deserves its own blockchain with its own state management, potentially its own validator set, and that's what Starport empowers developers to do, build their own blockchains. So the way you use Starport is very simple. You just run a single command that pulls the binary off the web and installs it onto your system. And now you can open your terminal window and start building blockchains. So with just a single command, you can scaffold a new chain, and what you get as a result is a completely new Cosmos SDK-based blockchain that is IBC enabled out of the box, and you can go in and start editing files. With one more command, you can start a reloading web server, not a web server, but a blockchain node that watches your files, and as soon as you change something, it automatically reinitializes the node, rebuilds the chain, reinitializes the node, and you have your updated version of your blockchain running. So it's very similar to building traditional web applications where you have the binary and you write code, save the file, and you get your new binary running in your web browser. So what's cool about Starport, I mean, there are many cool things about Starport, but you can also run it inside your browser. So with a service called Gitpod, if you go to the repository of Starport, you can click on a link, and it will open a Visual Studio code editor with Starport pre-installed. So you can actually start going through tutorials even from a device like an iPad, because it's all on the web. So let's go over some of the features that Starport offers. First, of course, it allows any developer to quickly create a new chain and add modules to it, add messages, queries, IBC packets. And one really cool thing is that with a single command, Starport scaffold list, you can scaffold code for a particular type, for example, blog post, and you will get all the necessary code for creating, deleting, updating records. What this allows developers to do is to get this feedback loop going very fast. So in order to understand how it all works, you just run one command and you see all the code being generated for you, and you can easily understand what's going on behind the scenes. You can tweak some settings, and now you've got your custom blockchain started, and you can tweak again and modify it and make sure that it implements the behavior you want. With additional, more advanced commands, you can then model your application in more detail. So for example, if you're building a DEX, then you can run a couple of commands to scaffold the skeleton of your application, and then you just go into the relevant parts and implement the code specific to your application. So Starport CLI allows you to quickly prototype complex blockchain applications in minutes. As I mentioned earlier, it includes hot reloading server that starts a node binary, and this allows you to quickly iterate on the code that you're writing. So instead of recompiling the code, reinitializing everything manually, or relying on shell scripts to do that for you, it's just one command away. And front-end developers in particular, and just web developers in general, will be right at home, because you get kind of the same experience as you would when developing traditional web applications, and that's very much intentional. We wanted to bring this very pleasant, straightforward developer experience from traditional web development into blockchain development, and I think we've really done an amazing job with that. Of course, Starport is IBC enabled out of the box. And what is IBC? IBC is a cross-chain platform, cross-chain protocol for connecting blockchains. So all Cosmos blockchains come with IBC enabled. So when you launch your blockchain, it automatically is connected to any other blockchain in the ecosystem. Of course, you can disable that, but by default, users get the freedom to move assets between blockchains, which is really incredible because at Tendermint, we believe that future is multi-chain, and this is kind of a prerequisite for a multi-chain world, for users to be able to move assets between chains and not be kind of siloed into a particular ecosystem or a particular blockchain. Of course, Starport comes with a bunch of other services and utilities that help you develop not only your blockchain, but also client-side applications, because we all know that it's not only about the source code of the blockchain itself, it's also about the client-side applications that you're building. And Starport right now features TypeScript client generation and a very sophisticated template written in Vue.js that you can use as a foundation for your application. So you can take this template, start adding features to it, and you can press one button, run one command, and get a full TypeScript client that you can publish on NPM or use in your application. So this is the way template looks. It's very clean, very straightforward, non-opinionated. You can use it to, of course, the whole point of the template is for you to modify it, to add new functionality, new pages, modify the existing functionality. And one of the goals that we have with this template is to let developers better understand how it all works, right? So when you create new chain, of course, as a developer, you're interested in how does a client-side application send tokens? How do you list all the transactions for a particular account? How can you use IBC? So the template, for example, includes an IBC relayer. So you can connect two chains from the browser and let users send tokens from in development, for example, you can scaffold the chain, connect it to an existing production blockchain such as Cosmos Hub, for example, and send the tokens that you mint on your local chain to Cosmos Hub. IBC is a very general purpose, very interesting protocol that allows you to do that. So you don't need to be whitelisted anywhere. You don't need to do anything. You can just scaffold the chain, mint tokens, and send them to Cosmos Hub. So Starport has been around for more than a year now, and since the very beginning, it was widely adopted by developers in the ecosystem and beyond. And many chains that we know and love were either created with Starport or developers use Starport to add functionality to it. Sometimes it's small things like scaffolding a module. Sometimes developers use it to go essentially from zero to a production level blockchain by scaffolding most of the functionality. So developers really choose what kind of features of Starport they really need, but what we are building is a complete platform that lets you build your chain essentially from the ground up. And of course, that wouldn't be possible without a very good system of tutorials that we have. So right now we have a developer guide on docs.starport.com that features 6 very well-written tutorials that guide developers from zero to writing actually an IBC-enabled decentralized exchange. So this is very interesting because developers that don't have prior blockchain experience, that know just enough Go, can start building right away. and each tutorial is not bite-sized, but it's pretty small in that you can spend a day or a weekend going through a couple of tutorials, and in just a couple of weeks you can become very proficient and start building something that may eventually end up in production. So what's next for Starport? Well, first of all, we are thinking about adding mobile app scaffolding support. So one of the things we discovered with Starboard is that developers really like the additional functionality that Starboard comes with, such as web client generation, because every blockchain needs a web client, right? Be it a wallet, a DEX, or a more specific application tailored for a particular blockchain use case. But clients are not limited just to web applications, right? Many clients are implemented as mobile applications. And right now, it is a bit of a challenge for developers to understand how it all fits together. How can you create a new chain with a mobile app that allows users to send transactions to your blockchain? So what we are working right now is automatic Dart code generation, so that with just a single command, you can have your Dart library that implements all the functionality, Dart client library that implements all the functionality of your blockchain, and a Flutter template that you can use as a base to build your application on top of. We're also investigating reducing reliance on placeholders. So right now, Starport does rely on placeholders being present in your source project, which may be a bit fragile, and we want to increase the resilience of Starport and reliability of it as a professional tool by removing reliance on placeholders and using code analysis, intelligently figure out where the code has to be inserted properly. And actually, soon we are having Hack Atom event, and one of the challenges is actually to reduce reliance on placeholders. So please participate and improve and help us improve Starport. We've also added a very interesting feature that will allow developers to model their application in a more precise way, because Starport now allows you to scaffold custom types. So you're not limited to just string integers and booleans. You can create new types and then use these types as fields for the new types that you generate. So essentially, it allows you to create a more sophisticated structures and model your application in a more advanced way, so you can write even less code. So please do visit starport.com. It's very easy to get started. I strongly recommend going through some of our tutorials, or better yet, start from the beginning and go from Hello World to blog to scavenge name service, and finally implement an IBC-enabled cross-chain DEX. It's very easy, and we're releasing new versions of Starport pretty much every 6 to 8 weeks. So there's always new things to play with. And if you visit starport.com, you'll see a link to Discord. We actually have a very active Discord community, and we try to help our users. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them there, and you'll definitely find an answer. So I'll spend some time right now actually demoing Starport, so you have a better understanding of how it looks, and how it works. So if you type this curl command that you can also see on the website, curl get starport.com/starport bash, it will install a new version of Starport on your local machine. Also visit the guide if you want to know how to customize the installation process, but pretty much this will install the Starport binary on your system. Once it's installed, you can type Starport and you will see all the commands that are available. So one of the most widely used set of commands is scaffold command. So Starport scaffold, and if we just type that, we will see all the things Starport can scaffold. So it can scaffold a chain, module, list, map, single, type, message, query, packet. We also have support for round chain oracles, and we have you can scaffold a view template if for some reason you've deleted one or you're using an older version of Starport, for example. So first of all, what we want to do is scaffold the chain, and let's do just that. Starboard Scaffold Chain, and we need to give our chain a module name because it's a Go project, and let's call it a blog. So what this command will do is scaffold a new chain. And by the way, Starport automatically detects that I'm actually not using the latest version. We've released a patch version recently, which is an interesting thing. But anyway, let's continue using that. So Starport Scaffold Chain now creates a new chain. And if we can see that it's created a blog for us. And if we open VS Code, we can see the source code of our chain. So it's a pretty standard Cosmos SDK application, and the bulk of the functionality is located in the X directory. X directory contains directories for every module. By default, you get a module that matches the application name. You can skip that, but that's default behavior. And of course, we can go into the source code, but to get started, what we'll be doing is running Starport chain command, namespace of commands, and Starport chain has several commands to work with a particular scaffolded blockchain. So you can serve, you can build, you can initialize, or you can use a faucet on your chain. What we're interested in is serving the chain, and I'll pass a flag called R to reset the chain so we can start from scratch. And what this does is, with just a single command, it will install all the dependencies, it will build protocol buffer files, it will compile the blockchain source code into a binary, and then use this binary to initialize the node and wait for changes to the source code. So right now it's building the blockchain, and once it's done, we'll have a blockchain node running and ready for you to start building. So you can see that we have 2 accounts set up. These are, of course, test accounts for you to send transactions and play with the blockchain you're building. And if we go into the blog module that we have, and I mean, I'm not going to code right now, but if we decided to change something, so for example, delete a comment or like move code around, save the file, it will automatically detect changes and rebuild the project and start a node again, so you can have the latest changes available to you. So let's quickly go over what we have here. Pretty much the most important directory you want to work with is the X directory. You will scaffold modules there, but we also have a view directory which contains the view template. And the view template is basically the foundation on top of which you will build your own application. Of course, you can skip that if you're using another framework or if you already are building something. But what you definitely want to check out is the generated library. So Starport generates TypeScript in Vuex client for the application. So if you type Starport generate Vuex, it will take the source code of your application, analyze it, and generate a TypeScript Vuex clients for both standard modules, as we can see here, bank, crisis, governance, slashing, for the particular version of Cosmos SDK you're using, and it will also generate a library for the custom module you have. In our case, our module doesn't implement any functionality, so it will actually skip this because we have no messages, no queries to generate code for, but it will generate the TypeScript library for standard Cosmos SDK modules. So this is very useful even if you're not using the template, even if you're not actually using Vue.js, because TypeScript client can be used by any framework. So it's very general purpose thing that you can really take advantage of if you're building a blockchain. So we're not going to wait for it to finish. Let's actually do other things. Let's check out other functionalities of Starport. So as we've seen, Starboard Scaffold has many commands. And what we'll do now is we'll actually commit all the code to the repo so that we can see the changes. So we just scaffolded a chain, right? And now we will run Starboard Scaffold again to see commands. And the canonical example, like we have a blog and we want posts there, right? So let's scaffold a list of posts, and each post will have a title and a body. And this is the only thing we need to type to generate, well, quite a bit of functionality, actually. So it will create types for the blog post and all the necessary code for that, but also messages to create, delete, and update blog posts. And the way Cosmos blockchains work is they essentially process transactions, and transactions contain messages, and messages change state, and state is a key value store. So each message, like create post, contains information that you need, that a blockchain needs to modify the state, and state may contain a list of posts, right? So this is what we did. We executed the command scaffold list post title body, and it generated and modified a lot of files. And you can see in the sidebar what kind of files it modified. And probably the most important one here is this one, message server post. This contains the logic that is executed when you create a post or update a post. And of course, instead of post, we could have scaffolded a different type. And this is very useful because this allows any Go developer to understand exactly what happens when a transaction is broadcasted with a create post message. This keeper method gets called, and we create a new post. We append this post to an existing list of posts, and we send a response. So this is very straightforward, and understanding this will allow you to start building more complex applications. And of course, if we just want to scaffold the type, we could type no message, and then it will just create a type for the post, but skip all the messages for creating, updating, and deleting posts. And in this case, like if you do this, you can now scaffold message and say submit post instead. So submit post, and then you'll have also title, body, but then you might want to add a different field. So you will add like date, for example, and maybe some sort of count, etc. Right? So you can really customize the way you do things. So now we scaffolded a new message that is called submit post, and here we have a placeholder where you can actually implement the logic for submitting posts. So you can use this as an example, or you can kind of write your own logic here. So this is very flexible, and you can use Starport to scaffold queries also, or if your data model is slightly more sophisticated, you can use other tools like Scaffold Single or Scaffold Map to store data in a map-like fashion, right? Of course, your application is not a single module. Right now, we have only blog, but we can use Starport to scaffold module, and let's say we're building a DEX, and this DEX is IBC enabled. So what this will do is it will create a new module called DEX, and it will add IBC specific functionality to it. So you can start implementing custom packets. And we, of course, have a tutorial on that. So the last tutorial is the most advanced one. It actually implements an IBC DEX. So this command created a module, but also imported the module. So when you run Starboard Chain serve, it will automatically pick up this new module and all the changes that you've made to it. So I don't have enough time to cover all the features of Starport, but let me just briefly mention what else comes bundled with Starport. We have an IBC relayer, as I mentioned, which is primarily for development purposes. So you can use it to connect to local chains, and this is very helpful when you're building custom IBC packets. We have tools that allow you to generate, like use Protoc directly, because we bundle Protoc. You can save completions into your shell, so it's even more convenient to use Starport, and it contains more advanced commands. So the last thing I'll probably mention is protofiles. So protofiles are very useful when to actually define the structure of your blockchain and the kind of queries and messages that Starport that your blockchain can process. So in this case, we have post and post all. So you can query post specific by ID, or you can query all the posts, and you can see all the types of messages that your transactions can include. So just kind of summarizing everything, Starport is a really convenient, powerful developer tool that allows you to quickly get up and running with building sovereign blockchains, and you have all the tools necessary to become productive in just a couple of days or a couple of weeks if you really want to go deep and like learn how to build a DEX. So with just a few commands, you can scaffold a new chain, add functionality to it, start a local node for development, and in the end, get a brand new sovereign blockchain that is IBC enabled, and you can connect it to other blockchains in the ecosystem. So please visit starport.com, learn more, go through our documentation and tutorials, and become a builder. Thanks so much for watching, and yeah, see you in the multi-chain.